Namaskar and good morning. Uh, I'm back today, Siran Mukerji, Additional Director in University Noida, with the course MMPC 001, Management Functions and Organizational Processes. Well, let's continue from where we had left last week. Uh, as you all, I'm sure you must be recalling that we had discussed the Block 2, Managerial Processes, Part 1, and in that we were discussing organizing, which happens to be the fifth unit of this course, MMPC 001. So here I am back. Let's continue from where we had left. As I said, we had last time discussed role of managers, which happened to be the third unit, and we had discussed planning, and we had done a part of organizing. So let us continue with the fifth unit, organizing, today. And in organizing, if you would recall, we had discussed the different approaches to organizing and analyzing work. Well, let us continue. Today, as you see here on the screen, I have highlighted organizing and I mentioned continued. So we're going to continue with this particular unit, organizing, and then we're going to discuss the next unit, the sixth and the seventh unit, that is staffing and directing and controlling. And controlling happens to be the unit of Block 3, Managerial Processes, Part 2. So this is what I have already told you. Well, as I said, last time we were doing the different approaches to organizing and analyzing work, and today we continue with this particular aspect and we move on to the next topic of our fifth unit, that is work improvement and work measurement. Well, as the name shows, work improvement. So work means way of doing something. So that is a kind of way of doing that something means method. So work improvement is basically method studying or method engineering. So as I said, it is the study of doing the work. So doing the work means what? Study of doing the work means how we can improve the work. The way we are doing something in an organization, how that particular work or the way we do the work can be improved. So improve means what? Not complicate it further, rather simplify, standardize the methods of doing the work, standardize the equipments, improve the working conditions so that the employees in the organization can do the work in a better way. So what actually it is? The work improvement is basically a process wherein scientific techniques of studying and analyzing the conditions influencing the quantity and quality of work done by the workers, that is done. Now, basically what we are doing is we are trying to study the current working conditions. We are trying to study the equipments that our employees are using. We are trying to see what all are the elements that go into performing the work in a better way, and then we are trying to improve those conditions. We are trying to improve those tools, those techniques, those methods, so that our overall efficiency increases, our effectiveness increases, we are able to perform the job in a better manner, and thus we achieve the organizational goals and objectives. So that does not mean that it's only the quality of the work, it also means the quantity of the work that the employee does. So quantity does not mean we compromising on something, that quickly we try to finish something. No. Keeping in mind the organizational objectives, keeping in mind the quality standards that have been set, that has to be ensured. Quality has to be assured. So keeping in mind the quality standards, quality framework, we try to improve the working conditions and we try to improve the work that we are performing. So Haynes and Massey, as you would have all seen in your post material, says that all the physical aspects of the operations considered to be part of the work improvement. So physical aspects, what would that mean? As we already discussed, it means the layout of the workplace where the employees are working. That is the plant layout or the workplace layout that comes into consideration, that needs to be studied. The materials that are being handled, the design of the equipments, the tools, and the working conditions. All these things come under the purview of the physical environment, and all these have to be studied so that we can improve them, we can standardize them, and thus we are able to perform our work in a better way. Similarly, the second aspect is the work measurement. Now, what was work improvement was the method improvement, method study. So, attached to that is the work measurement. Now, that work which we are doing, how much time are we taking to complete that work? That is also important. We do, because time is again a definite resource. It is not indefinite, it is not infinite, it is a finite resource. Within a stipulated time frame, the employees are supposed to complete their work. So it is basically assessment of the time that is required to perform a job by an employee, and to so that we are able to find the right time and the right way, right effort for doing the work in a more effective and an efficient manner. Now, RM Curie says that it is application of the techniques, that is the work improvement method, designed to establish the time for a qualified worker to carry out a specified job at a defined level of performance. The performance has to be standardized, the techniques have to be standardized, the whole environment, that is the workplace, the layout has to be standardized. Along with that, the time that is required to be performed to perform this particular work, that also has to be standardized so that the employees are able to complete the work, are able to deliver the goods within a specified time frame. That is what we call as um, efficiency, and within the quality framework, that is effectiveness. So what does this do basically? What is the advantages of work measurement? It involves the time study, it involves the work that is being done, and it also involves the overall standards. So it is the study and analysis, as you would have already understood, it is the study and analysis of the time taken to perform a particular job by a set of employees in a set of conditions, that is in a set of layout, in a set of locations, and to perform this work in a more efficient way. So that means it is straight away connected with the increase in productivity. So, as you saw, it is work measurement and work improvement. Work measurement, that is the time study, and work improvement is basically how the work can be done, how the whole environment of the workplace can be improved, the methods can be improved. So that is like the motion study. So that together covers the time study and the motion study. They together form the overall work study. What are the objectives of work study? Why do we need to do the work study in the organization? Well, the objectives are obviously, as you would see, to effectively use the resources, as we saw, the tools and techniques, that is the machine resources, the human resources, the overall operations, that is the machineries, the equipments, the tools, the finances, so that all the resources are used in a better way. Second is effective layout of the plant. These are all the objectives of the work study. Then elimination of, as we said, it involves time study and also the motion study. So that means we try to do the things in such a way that we don't involve unnecessary movements. So elimination of unnecessary motions, because that involves more of effort, that involves more of time that is taken, and that in the process the work that is to be completed might get delayed. That then work study also, the objective of the work study is basically simplification and standardization of operations, which, as you saw, was one of the objectives, or one of the work that is entailed in work improvement process. Then it is also measurement of the time that we saw, the work measurement process, and establishment of standard level of performance for each worker. We'll give them the standards, we'll give them the quality standards, we'll give them how the work is to be done, we'll give them that the time frame, that within this time frame the worker is supposed to do this much of work, within this time frame the worker is worker, any employee is supposed to complete the work within. That is what basically is the objectives of the work study. Now, as we said here, work study involves both time study and the motion study. So what actually is motion study? Motion study is the process of analyzing a job for determining the easiest, most effective, and most economical way of doing a job through a close scrutiny of motions made by the worker or a machine. So all these things basically, they all direct towards increasing the effectiveness and efficiency of the work that an employee does in an organization. Not necessarily a blue collared employee, not necessarily the employees of the lower level in the organization, but employees of all the levels of management. They have to do the work in a more effective and efficient manner. So the time study and motion study, that is the work study, is very important for improving the work methods and also for doing the work at a specified time frame. Now, as I said, we know what is a work study. Now we quickly go through what is the time study. Time study, basically, as you know, we studied work measurement. Work measurement was basically the time that is required, the standardized time that is required to complete the work within the stipulated organizational setting, within the stipulated availability of resources. So time study is basically, it is essential for work measurement. If we are trying to measure the work that the organization employees are doing, so we need to measure how much time is required to perform a set of work, a set of motion. So if we see after the analysis that more time is required, more time is being spent on completing a particular work, that means we are not able to do the work in the right way. So then in that case, what do? We try to find out ways, we try to do the motion study, we try to find out ways, we try to improve the tools, we try to improve the techniques, we try to improve the work standards, and we also try to improve the efficiency of the employees by providing them training and development. We provide them the skill techniques, we provide them the competency, so that less time is required, or not actually less, we can say, so that the employees are able to complete the work within this stipulated time frame. What is the benefit? I think you would have all understood by now. The benefit of time study in the organization is that it helps to find out the ideal workload of different categories of employees. So we will know, that how much work can an employee do, that is the optimum level of work that the employee can perform within the stipulated plant layout, within the stipulated layout of the working environment. So if we are able to find that, then obviously we are also able to improve the workers' performance. We are able to evaluate the performance of the workers, and thus we are able to achieve the goals and objectives of the department, of the division, and overall organization. Now, time study, as you would have understood by now, it also helps us in designing the salary structure, that is the incentive wage plan, to motivate the workers to increase. That means we also know that how much work the employee is performing, and in that within that process, we are also able to see how much work within the time frame. So that means the employee is not overloaded, but at the same time, the employee is not underperforming. So we are able to uh, try to define the salary structure. So we are able to define the incentive wage plan. So it is in a way trying to contribute towards job planning, job description also, and it also helps in accuracy of the cost standard. Now, what is the process? As you would have understood by now, or you would have tried to think that time study is not one step process. It's not a one step activity. Time study is basically, it involves a number of steps. So, and it's not so easy. It needs thorough understanding of all the processes that are needed to be performed by different levels of employees so as to achieve the organizational goals and objectives. So basically, what are the steps in the process of time study? As you see, the first step is selection of the work. We first of all try to enlist the work, and we select the work which we need to analyze. Then, to do that particular work, we try to establish the standardized methods. Now, once the methods are established, then we try to see who is going to do that work, or whose job is going to be analyzed. So we select an average worker who would be required to perform this work, and would require to perform this work within these standardized procedures. Then we try to divide the work, the suitable work for the time study. Now, as you would understand, the work that an employee is required to perform, that particular work is not again just one element. It would have several elements. So several steps will be required to complete a work, to accomplish a task given to the employee. So what we try to do is we try to divide the elements, the job elements. Then we study. The next step is we study the operator doing the job. Now, actually, what do? We have selected the average worker. Then we try to see how he is doing this work. That means we are analyzing actually the work that the employee is doing. And then when he is doing that particular work, there are, as I said, the work is divided into smaller components, smaller constituent elements. So we are studying each element. We are trying to see how much time the employee is taking to complete each element of the whole work. That is the work cycle. Then we try to determine the mode value. Now, what is actually mode value? Mode value is basically the average value of the time that the employee is requiring to complete each element of the work. So let's take for example, there is E1, E2, E3, E4, E5. So there are maybe 5 steps involved in completing a particular work of the employee. So we see, we record the time of E1, we record the time taken to complete E2, we record the time taken complete to E3, and similarly E4 and E5. Then we take a mode of that. So that is basically what we refer to determine the mode value from the time values for the sufficient number of cycles. Now again, it is not enough in the time study process to just analyze or calculate the work done by the employee only once. So maybe it might just be possible that due to certain environmental factors which are beyond the control of the employee, he performs the work, and the time taken is more to do the work, to do the various elements of the work, because there are several extraneous factors which affect the work environment. So, what do we do? The ideal method, the optimum method of doing a time study would be to study each element of the work, the time taken to complete each element of the work, and not once, but once the cycle is complete, then try to study and analyze the time again for the same work, the same elements, and similarly do it maybe 4 5 times, and thus we know the appropriate, the optimum time that an employee would require to complete the various elements of the work that is being assigned to him. And then add, this last step is adding allowance to the normal time to get a standard time. Then, again, it might just be possible that the same work, the same set of work is being performed by one employee in, let's say, 10 minutes, and the same set of work maybe is being performed by employee 2 in 11 minutes. The same set of work is being performed by another employee, let's say, in 15 minutes. And likewise, there might be the fourth employee who is trying to complete the work in 8 minutes. So that does not mean that the person who is doing in 8 minutes or the person who is doing in 15 minutes, he is a slow worker, or the person who is doing in 8 minutes is a fast worker. There could have been the environmental factors which affected the work process, because of which the first employee completed the work in 15 minutes, whereas the fourth employee completed the work in 8 minutes. So what do we need to do? We need to add, we need to give some, allowance to the precision, and that would be the standard time. So this is basically the process of time study. So now you know the standard time, so you know that this is work, this is the work that the employee needs to do, and this much time, let's say 10 minutes is the ideal, the standard time that is required to complete this work. So accordingly, you would assign this work to the employee, and you would give the time standards to the employee. If the employee is able to complete the work within that time standard, within the plant layout, within the work layout, within the job layout, within the resources that are being provided to him, so that means he is an effective and efficient worker, and our work also gets completed within this particular time frame. Now, what is the difference between time study? I think you would know by now. Time study and motion study. So, time study basically relates to the work measurement, whereas motion study relates to work improvement. So, what's the difference? What is the purpose of both? Well, I think you would have understood by now. The purpose of time study is basically to determine the time that is required to complete a set of operations in the job. Whereas motion study is the study of the motion or the movements that is required by an worker to complete the work. So that is the motion study, that is the work measurement, work improvement, and time study is the work measurement. What is the scope? Well, I think you would have understood. The time study involves both the workers and the machines, all the resources, whereas motion study is related to only the worker, the employee. Procedure, that is a mechanical process. Time study, as we are measuring the time, as we are measuring the work, so it is conducted in general with the help of a stopwatch to find out, actually to determine the time that is required to complete the work. Whereas motion study is basically observing how the work is being done, what are the basic movements that are involved in completing this work. So it is conducted with the help of photographic procedures. Now we go to another important topic that is of this particular unit, the fifth unit, that is ergonomics. I'm sure you would have heard of the term ergonomically designed furniture, ergonomically designed office work chair, executive chairs, ergonomically designed office layout, ergonomically designed tools. So, what is basically ergonomics? It is, as you see here, it is the scientific interdisciplinary study of individuals and their physical relationships to the work environment. So, here we are. Ergonomics means what? It is the science of human engineering. So, what we are trying to study? We are trying to not study the human being or the employee in isolation, and we are not trying to make a study of the physical environment in isolation. What we are trying to do is we are trying to study the human beings, that is the individuals, and their physical relationship with the work environment. So, ergonomics, as I said, ergonomically designed office furniture. So that means it is the office furniture or the office layout, that is a physical environment, and who is using it? It is the employee. It is for the employees. So we try to see the work environment, the most optimum design or optimum kind of work environment that helps the employees in performing the work better, that helps the employees in improving the work, and thus deliver the goods at the right time, at the right place, thus achieving the objectives. So, as I already explained, what is human engineering? It is an approach by which an engineer sets about. See, it's a scientific method. So, an engineer sets about the problem of designing the machine and equipment to be used by the human being, to be used by the employee. So, such is the design of the machinery, of the equipments, of the overall working conditions, which involves the layout, that the employee, considering the employee's requirements, that is human beings requirements. So it is the work environment, the kind of conditioning of the whole of the whole physical setting. So let's say it's very hot, very, in the summer, scorching sun, and it's very hot inside, very humid conditions. So that is not the conducive environment for working. So what we try to do, we try to study what is the optimum temperature that can be maintained in the rooms in the office building, which would help the human being in delivering, in working in the ideal environmental conditions. So that is what basically is what we call as human engineering, or what we call as ergonomics. So it is basically, as we all know, human beings and the machines, they have separate, different, distinct characteristics. So what we are trying to do in ergonomics, we are trying to study how these characteristics, how these features can be used in a complementary manner, so that they together contribute towards a better work environment. They together contribute towards enhancing the productivity of the organization. They together contribute towards achieving the organizational goals. So if we keep on saying that yes, we need to achieve, we need to achieve, we need to achieve the organizational goals, our objectives have to be met, but we are not providing the employees the ideal working environment. We are not providing the employees the working conditions. Working condition means the tools, the techniques, the machines, the overall working environment, the air conditioning, everything. So if we don't provide that, we don't provide the, let's say we don't provide the tools that they require, or we don't provide them the latest tool that is needed to complete the work, then they will not be able to do the work the way that we want it. So ergonomics is basically that study, that scientific study of the characteristics of the human beings and the characteristics of the work environment of the machines, that gel together to provide the ideal working conditions for enhancing the efficiency and effectiveness. And as you would all know, all this can be done with the adequate or let's say optimum use of information technology. We can't remain aloof. So how it is used, we have satellite locations. IT information technology is used by satellite location, by hot desking, that is work from home. We have people nowadays, you must have seen, especially during the COVID times, there were people, and even now there are people, you ask them, they say I'm working from home. So what does that mean? How can they work from home? It is only integration of the technology, the resources, technological resources with the human resources. That helps in organizing the work. Then you must have heard things like telecenters, teleworking, telecommuting, telematics. Now virtual organizations. Now we have virtual reality. We have augmented reality. We have artificial intelligence. Then you must have seen online businesses. People don't need brick and mortar settings. They're working from home. So without brick and mortar stores, we are selling our goods. We are selling our products. So, how all this is possible? It is only possible with the help of the use of information technology. Now, we go to the next unit, that is Unit 6, Staffing and Directing. What are the objectives? By the end of this unit, the all the students here, you would be able to understand what is staffing. You would be able to understand why is it important for the organization, what are the important functions of staffing. You will be able to identify the characteristics of staffing, elements of staffing. At the same time, you must have heard of the word directing. They say he directs the work, he is a director. Direction is very important for an organization. So we'll try to understand what is basically directing. Then we try to find out the characteristics, and also by the end of this unit, you will be able to identify the important elements of directing and the principles of directing. Now, without losing further time, let us try to understand the concept of staffing. As the name shows, staffing comes from the word staff. So, what does it mean? It is basically a process of, employing competent, qualified, skilled professionals in the organization for a particular position in order to perform a particular set of job. So staffing is basically, it is an activity in the organization, a very very important activity in the organization, which helps the organization in hiring the right kind of employee, right kind of employee or right kind of person for the right position at the right time. So when we say right kind of person, what do we mean by right kind of person? We mean the person with the right kind of skill, right kind of qualification, right kind of knowledge, competency for doing a particular job, for accomplishing the objectives that are needed for doing particular work. So as you would understand that staffing is a human resource activity, and you had all understood in the first unit we had studied the importance of human resources. So all other resources are there. We don't have human resources in the organization. Do you think the organization can function? No. The organization is successful because of the kind of employees that it possesses. So it is a very, very important, it is a very, very critical function of the organization. What are the functions of staffing? Obviously, by now you would be able to envision what are the functions of staffing. Number one, getting qualified people. How do you get? By the process of recruitment. Another function is utilization of human resources. It's just not enough to get the right kind of people. Once you've got the right kind of people, now what do you do with this right kind of people? You have to ensure that their their competency, that their skill is adequately utilized. Then that is from the side of the organizational aspect. Then there is also the employee aspect. Why would an employee join an organization? The employee would join an organization, or let's say we say that this particular employee left that particular company and has joined another company. So we also have to see the human side of the organization. That means we have to see that the conditions that we are providing, the overall working conditions, that helps in enhancing the satisfaction of the employee. That is, the function of staffing is also enhancing the job satisfaction. And when we have the right kind of people, they are able to do the right kind of job, we are using them, we are ensuring the optimum utilization of the people we have. We see that the people are happy, they are having job satisfaction. All these things together combine to ensure the organizational growth. So you see how important is the process of staffing in the organization. I don't think we need to go through these points again. We've already discussed them. We have to ensure, staffing has to ensure in the organization, staffing has to ensure that both the organizational requirements are fulfilled, at the same time the human, the employee interests are also met. So if there is a complementary, there is a gelling of these two aspects in the organization, then the organization is successful. Now, what are the characteristics? As you all know, stuffing, as I said at the very beginning, it is related to the term staff. So that means it is human resource centered function. It is people centered function. It is related to the employee. So it is an employee centered function which contributes towards the productivity of the organization. Now, it is relevant for all the organizations, whether irrespective of the size, the nature of the work that needs to be performed, irrespective of the nature and kind of organization, it is relevant for all the organizations, and it is applicable to all management levels. We need people at all levels. It is related to, it is basically a managerial responsibility. And staffing, as I said, optimum utilization of staffing, at the same time job satisfaction of the employees. So which means that although the employees join the organization with a certain skill set, now as we move on, as the time passes, it is our responsibility in the organization to ensure human resource development. We have to ensure adequate enrichment of the human resources, and it is a continuous process. Staffing, as you know, it is not one time process. It's not that at the beginning, once the organization is established, we recruit and select a certain set of people, and then we don't need any new people. No, there are people who are leaving the organization. There are people who are superannuating. So we have to fill those vacant positions, and not only filling the vacant positions, and then maybe the organization is going into expansion and diversification, which would require people, fresh set of people with fresh set of skill sets. So that means what? We have to recruit and select people. We have to train the people. So it is a continuous process. What are the elements? Let's see. Let's see now one by one the elements. We begin with recruitment, then we'll go on to study selection, then we move on to study training. So what is recruitment? We say recruiting people. It is used, synonymously with the word selection. Well, let me tell you, recruitment and selection, they are two very, very separate yet linked processes. So recruitment basically is encouraging people, that is attracting maximum number of people to apply for a vacant position, for apply for a certain job, provided they have the required qualifications, that is they satisfy the eligibility criteria. So recruitment is two kinds: direct recruitment and indirect recruitment, or for that matter external recruitment and internal recruitment. recruitment. As the word shows, internal, that means the recruitment, that is, it can be transfer, that is lateral recruitment, or it can be promotion within the organization. Let's say the lower level person from the lower level gets promoted to the next level. So this is basically internal recruitment. Then suppose there is a vacant position, let's say in a particular city for a particular job, and we see that there we already have an employee in another city with the same skill sets. He is trained, he is able, he is competent to perform that job. So instead of getting a person from outside the organization, we transfer this person to that particular city. So that is internal recruitment, that is kind of lateral recruitment. Then you have external recruitment, that is you get people from outside. That is, you are trying to attract maximum number of people to apply for a particular job in your organization from outside. It can be so it is direct recruitment, it can be contractual, it can be through employment exchange, it could be through human resource consultancy like placement agencies, and it could also be through campus placements. As I said, internal and external, so both have their relative advantages. Their relative methods. So both have their advantages and disadvantages. As you see here, internal recruitment, it is efficient because we have people within the organization. We don't need to advertise. We don't need to because if you're advertising, then again you have to give some time to the people to apply. They apply, then you scrutinize, you screen those applications. Then after screening, might be having screening tests. Then you might be having you shortlisting after the test. Then you will call them for the interview. So again, there is a shortlisting process, and then you select. So that is a time-consuming process, whereas internal recruitment is much more efficient. It motivates the existing employees because they know that if we perform well, we will be moved to the next round in the organization. Disadvantages, since we are getting people within the organization, so that means what? We are not getting fresh ideas. We have people within the organization and they're working for us. We are not getting people from outside, so we are not getting a new dimension. We are not getting a person with a fresh skill sets from outside. We have limited choice. Obviously, within the organization, whatever human resources we have to select from within. That's those employees. Whereas in case of external recruitment, there's a wide choice. We are getting people with the fresh skill sets. We are getting people with more talented people. We are getting people with the latest, let's say, knowledge and skills. And the disadvantage is, since suppose there is a position falls vacant. Now, if you're getting people within the organization to apply for that particular job, so there will be motivation. People will have a sense of belongingness towards the organization. Whereas, if these employees know that even if we have this vacant position, we will not be allowed to apply for that job. We will not be moved to that particular job. So, there will be lack of motivation. They will not be motivated to enhance their performance. But then on the other hand, external recruitment is more time consuming. It is also expensive because it involves so many steps. Next, we go to the next process, next dimension, next element of staffing, that is selection. Now, recruitment is a separate process wherein we are attracting suitable candidates, that is prospective applicants to apply for a particular job. Now, once we have those applications, people have applied, we have those applications, then we try to select from those applications. We try to select the most suitable person. So what is selection? It is the process of selecting the most suitable candidate for a vacant position in the organization. Now, this selection can be internal and it can also be external. If the recruitment process is external, so selection process would also be external. Whereas if the recruitment process is internal, then the selection process would also be internal. However, It might also be possible that the organization has a vacant position or has a new position, has developed a new position has been established. So for that, maybe it is allowing its presently existing employees to apply for that job, as well as it might be an open position. It might be asking advertising it for the people outside also. So in that case, the selection or the recruitment would be, it is a combination of internal and external. What are the steps? I think I'll quickly go through this. Preliminary screening, you have selection test, then you have interviews. We all know this. Then in the applications, or let's say application form, we also see that there are, at the end there's a list of references. So then there is scrutiny of references, and it helps us to do a kind of background check. Then we decide on the selection, and then the people who have been, let's say, shortlisted, selected and shortlisted, they undergo the medical fitness test, and the person who is found to be the most suitable, most qualified, has passed the test, selection test, has passed the interview, is also found to be medically fit, then we provide the job offer to that particular employee. The employment contract is there, which is signed by both the organization and the prospective employee, and the employee joins. The third dimension or third element of the staffing is training. Training can be, again, as you know, it is basically what? It is to enhance the skills, the competency, to enrich the skills and knowledge of the employee required for doing a particular work, required for doing a particular job. So what does it do? It develops the employee. It develops the already existing employee. At the same time, suppose, as we said, there is an employee who is a new employee who has joined the organization recently. So we need to induct the employee into our system. So that would be induction training. So as you see, training, what are the merits? It improves the performance. It helps to increase the motivation of the employees. It helps in managing the manpower needs. As I said, suppose there is internal recruitment. So or let's say we have the not only recruitment, we already have a set of employees, and we see that there are certain challenges, there are certain changes that have been brought into the organization. So change is constant. We have to be a dynamic organization. So in order to manage the dynamism, in order to manage the environmental challenges, we have to continuously upgrade and upgrade the skills of the people. So in order to upgrade the skills, we have to provide them the training. And training is basically two kinds: on the job and off the job. On the job, that is learning by doing, role playing, access to practical knowledge, or it is suitable for, let's say, routine structured activity, that is on the job. And whereas what is off the job? Off the job means what? Wherein the employee is away from his job settings. He is away from the organizational settings. He is away from his work environment. So it is training for a particular job position. So what are the techniques of on the job? As I said, it is apprenticeship, that is on the job rotation, simulations, uh, let's say coaching, induction. These are all on the job. Similarly, off the job is classroom lectures. Suppose you are working, as well as you have been sent by your organization to do a particular course. So that is classroom lectures, that you're away from your work environment. Conferences, seminars, workshops, vestibule training, these are all off the job. Next, we come to the next important, let's say, unit, which is called directing. As you would see, directing, what does directing mean? It just does not mean providing instructions. It does not mean giving orders. Directing is guiding the employees, counseling the employees. So, who is a good leader? Good leader who is a person who directs, who gives the necessary instructions, who leads, who gives counseling, who guides, who inspires towards what? Towards achieving the organizational goals. Now, as you see, directing, you guide. Now, you instruct, you try to supervise. Do you do it only once? No. It is a continuous process. It is an ongoing process and it is at all levels of management. What are the aspects of directing? As we already see, it is supervision, it is motivation, it is adequate leadership, and it is also adequate communication. What are the characteristics of directing? It is, you know, directing is not only at the very beginning. So it is obviously it is at the beginning of a work. Suppose a new we are giving the employees a new work to perform. So we have to provide them necessary guidance. We have to supervise their work. So it is at the beginning of the action. It, as I said, it is at all levels of management. It is continuous process because we are continuously motivating. It is the function we have to continuously motivate. It is a human factor. And why do we direct? Why do we supervise? It because it leads to optimum utilization of the human resources and other resources in the organization. Um, Principles of directing, it you would have understood it. It ensures maximum contribution of all the employees. It is both at the formal level, a formal organization, but within the formal organization, as I said, motivate the employees. So it also uses informal organization. Since directing, you can direct, you can supervise, you can train. You have to be a good communicator. So that means the communication has to be completely unambiguous. And then directing also is one of the very important principles is follow up. So it's just not that you provide the guidance, you supervise the work, and then you leave the employees to do the work. No, from time to time you have to evaluate, you have to assess, you have to monitor. So that is also one of the important principles of directing. Next, we go to the next unit. Now we are beginning with the block 3, that is managerial processes, part 2, wherein the first unit of this particular block is unit 7, which is controlling. Now, at the end of this, once we complete this particular unit, controlling, what are the objectives, what you would understand? Obviously, you would understand the process of controlling. You would understand that controlling is not a particular step; it is basically a process. So it has number of steps. What are the elements or features of controlling? You'll be able to identify the characteristics of controlling. Now, what are the basic essentials of a good control system? Then you would understand, you would know the different types of control and also the techniques of control. Now, quickly we go into what is controlling. What is controlling? We say the supervisor controls the activities. That means he ensures all activities, that is, he manages all the functions and sees that all the functions, all the work, they are integrated towards achieving the organizational objectives. So that means what? We have to bind, we have to see that within the framework, within the set of organizational layout, the organizational objectives have to be met. How do we ensure that? By the process of controlling. And it is basically, as you see here, it is a final link in the functional chain of management. So we have the different, we saw that management, there are so many functions. Controlling is the final link. It is a continuous process. Management is a continuous process. So the last step of management is controlling. and it ensures planned implementation of activities, because we are continuously checking whether the the work that we are actually performing, whether that that matches with the standards that have been set. So what does that mean? It ensures that the work is done, or let's say the plans, which, because first step was planning, so result of planning was formulation of set of plans, and those are achieved through a set of activities. So controlling ensures planned implementation of activities. Quickly go through the definition. You are now very much familiar with Fayol, Coons, O'Donnell. They are various scientists, management thinkers. Fayol, how did he define controlling? He says it consists of verifying whether everything is occurring in conformity with the plans adopted, the instructions issued, and principles established. So it is controlling is basically ensuring to check whether all the activities that are being performed by the employees, they conform with the plans that have been formulated for achieving the organizational goals and objectives. So how did Coons and O'Donnell define controlling? They said it is the process of measuring and correcting the activities of subordinates to ensure that events conform to plans. Importance, it is a very, very important process. Controlling is a very, very important process because it helps all the employees to remain, let's say, to remain active. It helps all the employees to perform the activities that are required to perform, and it also prevents all the employees from getting deviated from the specified route or specified channel of work. Features, it is a circular process which ensures no deviation. Control is the process which helps the organization, which helps the superior to ensure that all the activities are performed within the stipulated steps, stipulated plans. So it helps in preventing any kind of deviation. It is a continuous process. Control is a continuous process. It is a forward-looking activities, and it is at all levels. It is everywhere. It is at the junior management level, it is at the middle management level, it is at the top management level, it is at the operational level, and it has to be a positive. When we say control, we should not consider it policing. It is basically helping and supervising the employees to do the work towards achievement of the organizational objectives, towards fulfillment of the goals. What is the process? So, how can controlling be successful? The first step is establishing the standards. That is enumerating, that is setting up the goals. Standards, that these are the standards. This is what the person is required to do, and this is how the person is required to do the work. Then we measure the actual performance. Then we try to see what is how is the actual work and what are our standards. So we try to see the deviation. If there is deviation, we try to take the necessary corrective action, and we provide the feedback to the employees. So it is a continuous process. Essentials of a good control system: it has to be need based. We don't unnecessarily interfere with the work of the employees, so it has to be need based. Well, students, this is all. We are almost at the end of this session. We will continue with this particular unit, and we'll continue from where we are leaving today, that is essentials of a good control system, and we'll continue with this in the next session in the next week. Hope to see you all, and namaskar. Thank you so much.